Welcome to the Guidance Channel. I'm JT, the Mentor Coach. This is the Parenting Style Series. In our first video, the best approach to parenting during the pandemic, we talked about the authoritative parenting style, which experts have identified as the best approach to parenting and most effective and helpful for children. If you have not done so, after watching this video, I would like to encourage you to click on the link below to watch this important video in the series. When we return, today's subject, the most detrimental approach to parenting in 2021. Hit it! Usually, the relationship between parent and child has been one of rank or a chain of command, where the parent administers rules and regulations like a military general and children need to comply or find themselves chastised. It is important to be mindful that the Bible says that our children are a gift from the Lord, an undeserved blessing, which means that we are in charge of our children but not in control of them. Our charge is simply to oversee them. The two fundamental questions that every parent must ask himself are, number one, do I believe my children need to be motivated by fear and punishment? Or number two, do I believe my children need to be motivated through education? How you respond to these questions will determine the blueprint for how you approach the complete parenting process. The challenge is that some people in our society view discipline as instituting obedience through fear. Fear tactics only weakens the connection between parent and child. Please be mindful, there can be no behavior modification without a relationship. Today I'm going to share with you, number one, the authoritarian parenting style. Number two, 5 beliefs authoritarian parents have. Number 3, what the experts say about authoritarian parents. Number 4, 10 effects or outcomes for children. And number 5 practical guidance strategies you can use to begin practicing a more authoritative style of parenting. Finally, I will assign a mentor parent challenge. Number 1, what is the authoritarian parenting style? According to developmental psychologist Diane Baumrind, these parents are obedience and status oriented and expect orders to be obeyed without explanation. Their belief is that if my child is disobedient and misbehave, especially publicly, it is a reflection of my parenting. Parents, all children misbehave, just like you and I when we were children. The authoritarian parenting style is about being strict and stern. While the authoritarian approach might be effective in certain situations that require strict adherence to the rules, it can have a negative consequence when overused as an approach to parenting. The parenting style has been passed down from the silent generation to the baby boomers to the latchkey generation to the millennials and continues to be mimicked by some members of Generation Z. I'm not here to indict previous generations. Remember, people do what they know. Today we have more evidence-based information on parenting. The authoritarian parenting approach represents the most controlling style of parenting. Mistakes tend to be punished harshly. When feedback does occur, it is often negative. They attempt to enforce good behavior through threats, shaming, and other forms of punishment, rather than relying on positive reinforcement. They are more likely to nag or yell at their children than offer encouragement and praise. Corporal punishment is also common in the authoritarian approach to parenting. I'm not in the business of telling parents how to parent. Parenting is a very personal thing. My charge is simply to provide evidence-based information, offer some proven strategies so parents can decide which ones will work for them and their family. However, when it comes to corporal punishment, I would be remiss and irresponsible if I did not remind parents that when it comes to corporal punishment, it is the law which decides how far you can go. In fact, one of the biggest mistakes I made as a parent, and I made plenty, was to allow my pride to decide, my ego to get in the way when my son was a teen. One evening, I felt disrespected, and although I did not harm him, I did put my hands on him. And all the authoritarian folks said I did the right thing. In retrospect, I was wrong, and it cost me big time. My son left to his mother's house and didn't speak to me for a month. I later realized that I didn't have the tools, the skills, the strategies to deal with certain parenting situations. Why transparency? I don't want others to make the same mistakes I made. Number 2, what authoritarian parents believe. Here are 5. Authoritarian parents believe parents should A, expect instant obedience, B, not have to explain the reason behind a rule, C, not negotiate with their children, D, shaming will motivate children to do better, and E, corporal punishment is more effective than positive reinforcement. Number 3, what the experts say about authoritarian parenting. The authoritarian parenting style has been identified as the most detrimental for children if overused. Some may ask, if authoritarian parenting are demanding, doesn't that at least suggest that they will produce children who are better behaved and more successful in the classroom? Surprisingly, the evidence indicates otherwise. There is mounting evidence that heavy-handed tactics make children worse. When children misbehave, it might be tempted to enforce good behavior through threats, harsh punishments, and other forms of psychological control, but research suggests that these tactics don't result in long-term behavioral improvements. On the contrary, they seem to make things worse. In fact, in a recent meta-analysis, which is a statistical analysis that combines the research of multiple scientific studies of more than 1,400 public studies, researchers found that harsh control was actually the biggest predictors of worsening behavior over time. Number 4, what are the negative side effects or outcomes for children? Here are 10. Children are at a higher risk of, number 1, developing major depression later in life. Number 2, developing poor self-esteem. Number 3, displaying more aggressive behavior outside the home. Number 4, rebelling against authority figures when they are older. And number 5, engaging in drug use. Number 6, engaging in acts of bullying as perpetrators. They experience more problems. Number 7, regulating their emotions. Number 8, are less resourceful. Number 9, are unable to make decisions. And number 10, are least likely to socially be accepted by peers and teachers. If you notice that your parenting style tends to be more authoritarian, I would like to encourage you to begin incorporating a more authoritative style into your daily interactions with your children. Allow me to support you in this process by offering 5 practical guidance strategies you can use to begin practicing a more authoritative style of parenting. Number 1, set the table. This develops home expectations. Authoritarian parents often have too many rules and are unwilling or able to explain the reasoning behind their rules. Rules are needed, but too many rules set children up to fail. Here's a guided strategy to setting the table. First of all, have a small number of rules or agreements, about 4 or 5. Rules should be fair but not necessarily equal. In other words, if my 9-year-old came to me and said, "Dad, it's not fair that my 12-year-old gets to go to bed at a later hour," my response is that my 12-year-old has shown that they're responsible enough to go to bed at that hour and still get up in the morning and be responsible. Rules should be easy to follow. Rules should be stated positively. Tell children what to do versus what not to do. In other words, walk inside versus no running. Rules should be an area where you've had challenges or problems in the past. In other words, if you've had problems with your child sitting at Zoom one time, your rule would be, our rule is that we're seated for Zoom 5 minutes before it starts. Rules should be followed up with a consequence, with either negative or positive. A positive consequence would be acknowledging what your child did. In other words, I'm really proud of you for being seated 5 minutes before Zoom starts. Remember, children do what gets recognized. Number 2, develop parenting routines. Authoritarian parents often expect instant obedience. Children deserve an opportunity to transition from one thing to the next, just like adults. Implement a start routine. This routine is useful when you want your child to start doing something, such as getting ready for bed, getting ready for Zoom, or a bath. Give your child the instructions. Let me give an example, right? JT, it's time for you to get into bed. Wait 5 seconds. If your child does what you've asked, praise them. JT, thank you for following my instructions. Well, what if my child doesn't follow my instructions? I'll model it for you. Give the child the instructions. JT, it's time to get in bed. Wait 5 seconds. If your child does not do as asked, repeat the instructions and wait another 5 seconds. If your child does not do as asked this time, then they earn a logical consequence for not following instruction. Remember, logical means a reasonable consequence. In other words, I may respond, JT, since I've asked you twice and you didn't follow my instructions, your consequence is that tomorrow you will be going to bed earlier. Also, to better support your children, prompting them provides them with a great opportunity to transition from one activity to the next. For an example, JT, just a reminder, it's time to begin winding down. Bedtime in 15 minutes. Number 3, allow for natural consequences. Authoritarian parents often go to great lengths to avoid letting a child make mistakes. Most kids are often capable of learning from their mistakes when faced with a natural consequence. When a child earns a D on a test, the natural consequence of not studying will be the D grade. A logical consequence is only needed if they earned a D on the second test, because the evidence now clearly shows that they did not learn from the previous test. Number 4, entrust each child with an assignment. As noted earlier, the authoritarian approach represents the most controlling style of parenting, which leads to a higher risk of mental health problems. Parents, allow children to be in charge over some aspect of the household as soon as they're physically capable. However, the task assigned doesn't have to be done perfectly. This is an excellent way of affirming their value in the home and their gift. Number 5, practice the 5-to-1 magic ratio. As noted earlier, authoritarian parents are more likely to nag or yell at their children than to offer encouragement and praise. Noted psychologist John Gottman explored the impact of positive to negative interaction ratios. In his research, Gottman concluded that when adults strive to maintain a ratio of 4 or 5 positive statements to 1 corrective statement, children thrive in home, academic, and athletic environments. Finally, our Mentor Parent Challenge. Challenge number 1. If you have not done so, your challenge is to take the parenting style quiz to discover your parenting style. In the link below, take the 15-question multiple choice quiz. It normally takes about 3 to 4 minutes. In the comments section, please let me know the outcome. Challenge number 2. Select 2 guidance strategies. Begin practicing them in your home with your children for 10 days. Please let me know which 2 strategies you selected and the outcome. Be mindful that when you introduce some new guidance strategies into your home culture, children's behaviors often get worse before getting better. Stick with the strategies because children need time to adjust to a different culture. On a more positive note, some children may just look at you suspiciously as if you're up to something. In closing, motivate and inspire your child through education, not fear. I'm JT, the Mentor Coach. If you enjoyed this content, please feel free to subscribe, comment, and like. Also, if you believe others would benefit from this video, please share. It helps to grow our channel and impact more families. If you're interested in receiving notification about future videos, please hit that notification bell. Finally, visit our website at www.jtthementorcoach.com, where our charge is to inspire youth, inspire families, and inspire communities. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.